Okay, so I get this question a lot from merchants and office staff when they're trying to go through their credit card processing bill and figure out what they're paying, how they're paying it, and whatnot. And so I want to take a moment to go through different ways to price credit card processing. Credit card processing, many people will say it's complicated by design. I'm not one of those people that thinks it's complicated by design, but I will tell you that it can be complicated until you understand the basic fundamentals of how to price credit card processing. So first and foremost, I want to talk about interchange. I have other videos that talk about interchange, what interchange is and how it works, but very simply, interchange is the fee negotiated between the issuing bank of the actual card and the card brand or the brand or logo on that card, the fee that they have negotiated to charge. Now, that fee is the same for any processor you go to because it's negotiated between the issuing bank that issued the card and the card brand that created the ability for that card to be used out in the marketplace, say Visa, MasterCard, Discover, whomever. And so you have that is one of the fees built in, interchange, and then you also have dues and assessments and other fees that are charged by the card brands for actually using credit card processing on their networks. And so let's look at how you can actually price credit card processing knowing that those costs are involved. And so you have the processor, and the processor is charging you for processing those transactions to get you to the card brand and the bank's network, to route you to get those transactions completed, and then to ultimately settle that transaction into your bank. And so first we're going to start with tiered. Tiered is one of the pricing types where they actually bundle together all of those interchange fees. Interchange, dues and assessments, all that stuff. There's set fees for each individual type of card, and that can get very, very complicated. And so what they've done with tiered pricing is they put it into buckets. Those buckets, you'll hear names like qualified, right? Or you'll also hear like a mid-qualified or say a non-qualified. Now, these terms sound confusing, but what they're basically saying is they're saying that these are lower priced interchange cards, these are medium range priced interchange cards, and these are higher priced interchange cards. And they just created buckets, and they just threw those types of cards into those buckets. So whenever you charge it, this is the flat rate you're going to pay for any of those types of cards. So instead of seeing each individual nuance of card types, you're going to see this on your statement. Now let's just say, for example, on qualified, let's just say a similar one would be like 1.69%, right? And then you'll see a lot of mid-qual come out at like 2.49%, and let's say a non-qual at 3.19%. These are just examples of rates, but it just gives you a rough understanding of what some common tiered rates would be from qualified, mid-qualified, and non-qualified when you're accepting those cards. You'll hear people talk about rewards cards cost more, this and that. That's because they fall into that non-qualified or that mid-qualified range. One other thing that would bump something into the mid-qualified or the non-qualified range is if the transaction is keyed or done over the internet, much like the interchange would go up, well, it would also bump that card type into a different bracket. Now, the second card weighted price is called ERR or bill back. Now, ERR and bill back is kind of a hybrid between the tiered and the interchange plus, and we'll talk about interchange plus in just a moment. But the ERR or bill back, what they do is they give you a base rate. And so your base rate would be the rate that any type of card that you take where the interchange rate is lower than this amount, this is what you're going to pay. And so let's call the base rate, 1.69%. And so we'll say it's your qualified rate. And then what they'll do is any card types that would have normally fallen in that mid-qual or non-qualified range because they cost more than 1.69% from the actual processor, they'll bump that into what we call the ERR or bill back. And so they'll charge you the difference in the interchange, so plus difference of interchange. We'll call it interchange IC. And then a surcharge. And a common surcharge will say, let's call it 40 basis points or 0.4%. And so what they'll do is they'll say, okay, anything that comes in under 1.69, we're going to charge you a flat fee of 1.69. But then anything that comes in over that, we're going to charge you the difference plus the surcharge for whatever that is. And so that's where the processor would make their margin on that particular pricing type. Now, one thing to watch on ERR pricing is that sales reps will come to your office and they'll say, hey, we're going to charge you 1.69% base rate. That'll be your rate. What's your rate? 1.69%. And 1.69% sounds great, but in reality, you are going to go ahead and pay any of those charges that would be in your mid-qual or non-qualified buckets. All right. Finally, Interchange Plus. Interchange Plus is a very common one recently because of the fact that consumers, business owners are becoming more astute to how credit card processing works, and they understand that the interchange is the base cost. It's the cost for actually processing that card that comes directly from the issuing bank. And so the Interchange Plus means that they're going to take any of the fees that would be what we call pass-through. It's also called pass-through pricing. Okay? And what it means is they're going to pass through the interchange, okay? And they're also going to pass through, because interchange comes from the issuing bank, okay? And they're also going to charge you dues and assessments. And this comes from the brands, the card brands. And then on top of that, plus, they're going to charge you the processing, okay? And so they'll charge you, call it 40 basis points, 0.4%, whatever, above this. So they'll pass through what would normally be bundled into this or normally bundled into this. They'll pass through those amounts, and then you're going to have the processing cost on top of that. So what's interesting about all these different pricing types is that because there's so many different ways to skin a cat, to price merchant services, it can make it confusing for you, the business owner, because what ends up happening is you think that your rate is 3.19% over here, right? And so you like this 1.69% because, wow, that's a really good rate if that's the rate. But in reality, you may actually pay the same amount, if not more, on this pricing type than you would over here. And same thing with Interchange Plus. Interchange Plus is believed to be the most economical pricing type. But there are times where you may actually have a better rate with tiered processing and ERR. And one caveat to all of this is this: that when a merchant processor comes to you and you give them your statement to do an analysis on your statement, one of the things you have to be careful about is if they change the pricing type to give you the estimate. And the reason I say that is it's very difficult to give an apples to apples estimate if I'm taking you from a tiered pricing structure over to an Interchange Plus pricing structure. And the reason for that is a statement for a tiered pricing is not going to disclose what fees for interchange and what fees for dues and assessments, kilobyte fees, all of those other fees that were built into these bundled rates. And so you can't give an apples to apples comparison and give an exact dollar amount as to how much you could save. However, they could give you an estimate based on this same pricing type and say that a very similar amount of money would be paid if I put you on X pricing type for Interchange Plus. And so something that you want to note is that whatever pricing type you're on, if you do receive an estimate from someone to save you money on your merchant services, that you're going to want to see an apples to apples comparison so that you're not being taken advantage of and you're not having them say, hey, look, I'm going to put you on Interchange Plus because it's cheaper, when in fact they could price this processing at a higher rate, and then you may end up actually paying more than you thought you were going to. And so I hope you appreciate this video. I just wanted to educate you guys and arm you with the information so that you can make educated business decisions based on your merchant services. If you do have any questions, please visit our website. There's a Contact Us section on there, or feel free to call us. Our contact information is on that Contact Us page at our website. And if you have any questions, like I said, contact us. My name is Ryan Cabrera. I'm with Precision Payments Incorporated, and have a great day.